Hey guys, it's Darcy here. I have not made a YouTube video in a while, but just thought I might see how this goes. We'll see. I wanted to talk today a little bit about interacting with your 3D while trying to change your assumption. So if you are communicating with your SP, this was just something I had talked to with a client recently, and I thought maybe I could talk about this a little bit more. So if you're interacting with your SP and you're trying to change the way you see them, this may help you. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So, when it comes to interacting with an SP, I'm never going to say it's a bad thing because everyone's story is different. You are the one that makes the call on that, right? You know yourself better. You know if you're getting triggered, if it's becoming overwhelming and all that. So when we're interacting with our 3D, it can be a little tricky at times because we can easily get pulled into the old way of thinking of things because it's right in front of us. And we need to take a moment to remind ourselves, one of the tools that I like to kind of use or tell clients to use is when you're interacting with your 3D, when you're trying to manifest something, first off, it's okay if emotions come up. But secondly, ask yourself, am I interacting with this from the old story? Or am I choosing to show up interacting with this through the old story or the new story? So that's one thing. And also, are you allowing this to have an emotional hold on you? So that's another thing. We need to feel indifferent. So just an example scenario. Let's say that you're manifesting your SP. They are y'all have a friends with benefits, but they're not actually moving it to the next step. Let's say that for some people that may be triggering and they cannot handle that, so they need to set a boundary down. And for others, it may just be, they need to communicate with this person, for others it may just be it doesn't faze them. Maybe that makes them live in the end even more. Everyone's going to be different, and you have to be the one to make that call. So let's just say that maybe it's kind of bothering you and you're thinking about it in your mind, you're interacting with your 3D. You're sitting there and you have this assumption, my SP and I are in a healthy relationship, we're in a loving relationship, but then when you go around them, this is where you have to have awareness with this. You cannot let yourself just kind of fly off the handle and be on autopilot. And I don't mean, obviously, watch every thought that comes up, but catch what you're feeling. What's your mood? What's your energy like? Are you feeling like when you meet up with your SP and you're about to hook up with them, are you feeling annoyed? Are you feeling like, wow, this is all I'm getting? Are your emotions, what are your emotions? Do a little check-in with yourself. And that's how you start to change that story. And if you're noticing, that this is not helpful, this is where you need to make accommodations for yourself. So that may be, I have to put this boundary down with my SP because it's important for me to change this story. So a lot of times when we put that boundary down, it allows us to change the storyline entirely. It feels like that new story is really being pushed out in our reality. And for some people, they need a little bit of that validation to move forward. Whatever. Boundaries are great. It shows your self-concept. It also, sorry guys, that was my turtle. It shows your self-concept, and it also shows that you're really trying to push that new story into motion. So a lot of times what happens is we get caught up with our reality and we just keep going into a cycle where we just are constantly just continuing on with what it is. So it's because it's living in your mind rent-free, right? So what do we need to do to change that? We need to pull ourselves back from it. If something's overwhelming you, you need to take yourself out of that situation. I hate comparing it to this. You guys know this, but it's the best thing that makes sense. Just like somebody who's struggling with an addiction of some sort, even let's say someone has a gambling addiction. Okay, so they're being put in situations that may trigger them to do what they don't want to do, which is gamble, right? So what do? You take yourself out of those situations. So you have to be the one to make that call. But I just was talking with a client. She was like, well, how do I interact with my SP if he's going to keep bringing up the old story of being annoyed that I'm not doing this or I'm doing that, whatever, right? Because they had a little spat between the two of them. So what you do is you don't ignore it completely. Like, you interact with your reality. You just detach from it. You don't put so much emotion and feelings into it. So how do you do that? Well, you're interacting. They're saying something you don't like, and you're talking to them. You're interacting with them back. Whatever comes out, you may say something like, okay, I understand why you feel that way or whatever. But in the back of your mind, you need to be having like, my SP is moving past this. My SP is moving past this. We are in the new story. We are moving in the new story. And a lot of times when you saturate your mind so much with that new story, your actions and thoughts and all those things change. Your habits will instantly change, and it becomes easier to interact with your 3D. But sometimes when we're put in a situation where, someone's bringing up the old way that we were and it's being thrown in our face, we need to remind ourselves we need to remind ourselves of the story that we want to believe, because it's easy to just get caught into that and be like, oh my gosh, I'm a toxic person, or they'll never change. This person hates me. My SP's not going to conform. They don't want me. So you have to have that fine line where you're just like, okay, I have to interact with my reality, but what can I do to make myself not get hung up on my reality? What can I do to make myself feel indifferent? And just feeling indifferent is just like, I'm sure most of you have been in a situation where you face somebody who is really annoying. Like, you're in a classroom, your teacher's teaching, and there's this kid who keeps tapping their pen or something, and it's like about to drive you nuts. What do? You just tell yourself like, okay, like whatever, I'm going to focus on something else, or I'm not going to let this get the best of me, so I'm just going to focus on something else. That's part of being indifferent. That was probably the worst example ever, but that's kind of where I'm getting at with it. So, and if somebody, I don't know what other examples to use, but yeah, if you are in a situation where you're having to interact with them, you have to really be diligent with this. You got to think like, okay, I'm not showing up as old Darcy. I have to be new Darcy. This is the new story. It's in my mind. I think about this all the time. I know it. So let me just, continue on. Yes, it is being delusional because you're interacting with it and you're saying one thing, and then you're doing something else. I get it. It makes sense. But I promise you, the more and more you persist in that story, and the more and more you really believe that nothing else matters and that this thing is going to happen. It is, and I know some people might be like, well, you need to say it already happened. No, just say it's going to happen. It's fine. It doesn't mess anything up. If you firmly believe that, your reality will conform. I promise you. So I hope this helps someone out there today. Leave comments down below for some ideas for videos on YouTube. I'm definitely going to try to come back on here because I know a lot of you guys do enjoy YouTube as well. Again, if you want coaching, go to our Instagram page. It's under coaching highlights, and then for prices and all that and the setup, and then just shoot us a private DM, or you can also email me at persistentqueen@gmail.com, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Bye, guys.